What's up, everybody? Chris Fluke Podcast, episode number 157. Chris Fluke here. Today, man, I'm sharing a story. I've been on a bit of a podcast hiatus as we had a lot of work to do last week, and then we took a little trip to Cape Cod. And after our first night in Cape Cod, I did something that I never thought I would ever do in my life. And I have my child to credit for that. So we go to this restaurant, man. It's called Hangar Bee Eatery. Great breakfast, great reviews. We look it up, we love the menu, we go and eat. We pull up and we're at an airport, a small airfield. And I got a sense of what people feel like when they come out to the farm here and they think they're coming to a gym, but what do they see? They see a horse farm, a barn, right? So we pull up to this airfield and I'm like, I'm gonna get out and go see what the heck's going on here because the GPS says we're here. So I get out, I'm like, hey, I see a couple and their kids leaving. I'm like, hey, is there breakfast here? And they're like, yeah, you just follow the green path. And then it's right up there. It's upstairs. So I'm like, cool. And as I'm looking around, there's like a parking lot inside this fenced area where the restaurant is, and there's like planes parked there. And I'm like, what's going on here? We get in there, and then I see a sign, of course. I find the restaurant. I see a sign. It says you could get tours of the area in an airplane. So I'm like, oh, that's cool. I go back, and I'm like, hey, it's up here. Let's go eat. I'm telling Maurice, I'm like, hey. They're even advertising that you could like take some of these planes out for a tour. Emmy catches wind of this, my daughter, and is like, what? I want to do that. And we're like, well, we'll see, right? Never thought we were actually going to do it. So we eat our food. Emmy's watching these planes take off. It's literally like 100 yards away, right? They're taking off. They're coming in for landing. There were some guys that were sitting next to us that literally flew their plane in. Their plane got maintenance, maybe got an oil change, or maybe they just parked their plane there. They ate breakfast, and then they flew out of there. Like, this type of lifestyle didn't even ring a bell in my mind. It's like a whole nother world, that these individuals were living. So we decide that we are going to do it. Emmy's pumped about it, and I'm like, I'm going to have to get over this thing, man. And we're going to get up there. Somehow Marisa was okay with it. Emmy was excited. We look up the price. It was fair. It was reasonable. We took a 15-minute flight in a Cessna Skyhawk, which is basically a four-seater plane. It was the pilot who literally just got out of flight school, which was a little nerve-wracking for me. I sat shotgun. Emmy and Marisa are sitting in the back. We take off. We get a little bumpy. It's a little shaky. I'm like, I never flew growing up. Like, growing up, was never exposed to flying. Emmy, on the other hand, has flown since she was like 1 year old. Flying in a plane is nothing to her. I didn't really fly until I was like 28. So I'm not cool with it that much. I mean, I'm fine. I'll get on a plane. I don't get like scared. But I get a little uncomfortable. I get a little tense when we're taking off and when we're coming down. So we're in the Cessna Skyhawk, right? And it starts shaking and stuff. I'm like, oh no. I'm starting to feel my hamstring get a little tense. I'm like, damn it, this is a terrible time to get a hamstring cramp. And then as I'm thinking about why in the world am I getting a cramp, I realize that my whole body is freaking tense. I'm sitting there like a rock. I'm squeezing muscles. I'm like, I have to freaking relax a little bit. I'm riding shotgun with the pilot. I take a peek back. Emmy's looking out the window. I give her a thumbs up. She gives me a big smile and a thumbs up, and I'm like, all right, I think I'm going to be okay. Going up, coming down, a few turbulent moments throughout the process. But anyhow, it was a 15-minute ride in a plane with a pilot that could probably barely buy alcohol. We survived. Sounds crazy. Never thought I would do it. My child is to thank, and she is to credit for it. Now, why was this such a big issue for me? And I think our anxiety systems are very practical. They assume that anything that you run away from is dangerous. If you run away from spiders, you're always going to think you're scared of spiders. If you avoid flying for most of your life, when you do fly, say, and you are 28 years old like I was, or 30, I don't even know how old I was when I first flew. It could be you could get a little anxiety there, right? You could be a little bit anxious. And it makes me think about that saying, it's prepare your child for the road, not the road for the child. So what you have to do is get these experiences out of the way, expose them to many things, get their anxiety systems at ease with some of these borderline anxiety-inducing activities like flying, like balancing on a high beam, like doing the monkey bars, like climbing a rope when it's very high. Like, what else? Going to gymnastics practice where you let them in the door and you walk right out, dropping them off somewhere for practice and stepping back, walking away, letting them go out there and experience what the outside world is. Because at the end of the day, that's our job as parents. We need to get them prepared for the outside world because they're not always going to be underneath our wings. And when I was getting, it's seeking out different challenges, it's seeking out some different adventures just so that they could be better suited, so they could be more resilient for the real world. If you don't do that, if you provide a safety net over everything, then what you're going to create is a terrible negative feedback loop. So you create the protective area, you give them that safetyism, you put the net over top of them, you keep them in a bubble, so to speak, right? With safetyism, your child will become more fragile. When they're more fragile, they'll become less resilient. When they're less resilient, they're going to need more protection. When they need more protection, they're going to need even more safetyism on top of it. So as you see how this goes here, if they're a little bit scared of something, and then if you feed into that and listen to them and don't expose them to this thing, obviously I'm not telling you to put them in a lion's cage, right, to get comfortable around big cats. I'm saying get them a little bit out of their comfort zone, wherever their comfort zone may be. Their comfort zone might be down here in regards to, getting on an airplane, okay? You just want to nudge them up a little bit, get them a little bit more comfortable with it. Don't do the opposite, don't avoid it, because then that's going to require that they will be less resilient in that situation. They're going to have a little bit more of a panic situation, and in the future they're going to need more protection, more safety. It's not what we want. And a few things here before I wrap this up. I had a few quotes written down that I wanted to share. Nothing is miserable unless you think it's so. As I'm up in here and I'm freaking flying over top of Cape Cod, there's cranberry bogs, there's these country clubs that we're flying over. We're flying over the freaking water, man, the ocean. We're literally as far out, you got us so close to the Atlantic Ocean as you could get while staying on ground, I feel like. So we're up here, we're overlooking everything, and I'm just like trying to take some pictures, trying to ease my mind a little bit. Nothing is miserable unless you think it is. And I'm going to close with a quote from Milton here that said, "Our minds can make a heaven of hell and a hell of heaven." Our minds have the ability to do that. So when we're entering a situation that we think might be a hell type situation here, we need to remember what my daughter has a beautiful shirt that says, "Think happy, be happy." We could somehow reprogram our brains, and we're able to reprogram our brains in a way that allows us to be happy, that allows us to be comfortable in uncomfortable situations. We're going to be able to experience life. We're going to be able to experience more challenges, experience more adventures, and because of that, I think live a more fulfilled life. That's just me speculating. Hope you guys like this episode. Go to YouTube, subscribe. My subscriptions are going up 1 or 2 each week, and I love it. Like, subscribe, do whatever you got to do. I'm trying to get this thing out there in front of more people. I have a weekly newsletter that gets hundreds of opens every week. Makes me happy. Every time I see the percent open rate, I'm like, this is great. I can't believe that people are still opening up my newsletters after 2+ years. So thank you if you're one of those people. Go to chrisflook.net to subscribe to the newsletter. Go to my YouTube page to subscribe to my YouTube channel. There's going to be more stuff coming out on there. I'm going to try to get a little bit more coaching, a little bit more parenting, a little bit more fitness-minded stuff on the page that's not necessarily going to be a full podcast episode, so to speak, but it's going to be introducing a few ideas, a few concepts you could hopefully implement to your daily life so you can get a little bit more healthy. You could be hopefully a little bit more happy. You start to read a little bit more and do some of these positive things that would just make life a little bit more fulfilling. I think that's everything, man. Hope you have a great day. Peace, everybody.